Shalom and blessings to those of your saints. For these broadcasts, I would not say good morning. I've actually deliberately decided that I would, as much as possible, cease from greeting anyone with good morning or good afternoon or good day. I would not use those European terms because they're just empty. Shalom speaks to that peace that Yahweh gives, but goes beyond human understanding, but assures you that it's always well. Good morning is a language that was taught to us, enforced upon us, while our mother tongue was stripped or beaten out of us. I bid you shalom. As you join this broadcast, of course, I'm wearing my Farmer Brown's hat. And somebody asked about Farmer Brown the other day. It's just a story about this farmer who was the one who provided food for the village and wanted the best for all of the other villagers. That's the essence of Farmer Brown's story. My job is to provide food for Guyanese. Food for those of you who have interest, even though you're not Guyanese. You have interest in truth. My Farmer Brown hat is to do that. My Farmer Brown hat is to educate. Welcome. Shalom. Can you hear clearly? And can you see clearly? If you can see and hear clearly, please share this broadcast with someone. Invite someone. Let them know, especially Charles Ramson, that he can sit at the front of this class. And today, those who came to defend Charles Ramson, you need to be standing in the front of the class. Because I'm unsurprised by your behavior. You see, once you know your history, you have the ability to see when it's being repeated. Once you know your history, you have the ability to see when it is being repeated. And because I have a very good understanding of my history, I could see that it is in full repeat mode in Guyana. Welcome to all of you. Shalom. I've noticed that there were quite a few I'm very cautious, but I can't help it. There are quite a few Africans who saw the need they didn't see the need. I'm sure that they were sent. There's a difference. Because based on the tone, they had to have been sent to speak highly of Charles Ramson and to make it appear as if Charles Ramson is worthy of commendation. For saying, in essence, that Statement Construction, who got this contract to build the Bame Primary School to the tune of $347 million, although they have absolutely no record of having any experience in the field of construction, they have never, as contractors, submitted, which is a criterion for the bidding process, a record of their previous engagement in the field of construction. They have not submitted any track record as to what they would have built, thus qualifying them to construct a school that would house over 800 students and would be there about 64 to 70 or 80 teachers plus auxiliary staff. The company, owned by two Africans, rightfully so, came under scrutiny because it takes one with the most minuscule, the smallest level of common sense to know that the only conditions under which Statement Construction got the contract is political. I said it to the owners, I said to any one of you. Had they not been involved in the PPP Civic, they would have never gotten a contract. Or I should say be the front men or have the opportunity to present it as the contractors if they were not a member of or a part of the PPP Civic administration. This is not a statement of hatred. It is not a statement of anger or jealousy. It's a statement of fact. It is a statement of truth. The PPP Civic and APNU AFC, PNC, function by the same principle. Those who are on their side get the best part of the pie because their intention is never to develop, in the true sense of the word, Guyanese. You see, when the government can choose to have taxpayers' money used for rewards, I will have a problem with you. If you're going to use taxpayers' money to reward those who are faithful to you, I'll have an issue with you. And every Guyanese with sense should have an issue with you. Go into your account. Take out money from your account. Give them the money to build your house. No problem. That's on you and them. But when you go into the treasury of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana and you extract from the treasury or you charge to the treasury the bill for building a school on the backs of taxpayers, just so that you can give your boys a reward or a chance, we'll have a problem. Please share the broadcast. Please share the broadcast. Please share this broadcast as often as you can. And so I said, and I always want to start this broadcast with why I'm doing what I'm doing. I said that it is wrong. It is wrong because there is absolutely no public procurement commission sitting today in this country, with none. There's no body sitting in the seat of the public procurement commissioner to question or challenge through questioning this act. So because of that, Charles Ramson, knowing, or he should know, what is proper in reference to the awarding of contracts in this country, was invited to or was sent to, whatever it is, I do not care. He went to 94.1 FM and sat there in the midst of one who's involved. And he sought to defend an illegal, if you ask me, this is illegal. Because you should not give a contract as a government, as an administration, to anyone who is disqualified from it. If someone doesn't meet the criteria for gaining a contract or being awarded a contract, then you should not give it to them. That is simple. That has nothing to do with black, as you all call it, white. Indian, Chinese. It's what is lawful. And so Ramson was in that environment, suggesting that this contract being awarded to Statement Construction would give them the opportunity to become wealthy, I would like to think, or advance in reference to their financial status. And as a result of that, they'll be considered successful black men. Black men. Ramson never said they're Africans. Ramson never referred to them as Hebrew. Ramson referred to them as black. I said to you the last class, the last time, Ramson, for your history, not mine. Your history began with the Dalits. They were called nobodies in India. They were called untouchables in India. My history did not begin with being an untouchable, with being a Dalit or a nobody. And so Charles Ramson suggested on a public platform that these two African gentlemen would be role models to the black community. He never said African, but he refers to himself as Indian. But he refers to Ferguson or whoever was sitting in the studio as black. And that man sat in that studio. Of course, I do not credit him with having as much wisdom as the average person. But he was willing to sit in the studio and hear that terminology being directed to him or to his court or to him and his court. And he had no issue with it. He cannot have an issue with it because at the end of the day, the one who represents his handlers was speaking to him. So he cannot argue with Charles Ramson. He has to bow to Charles Ramson. He has to acquiesce to whatever Charles Ramson does or says. He has to kowtow to Charles Ramson. He has to lick, then, in essence, the hand of his master. Because you can't challenge the master who's talking to you. So Ramson could call him black, but refer to himself as Indian. I always warn you that these Farmer Brown sessions will make you very uncomfortable if you're racist. Because I have no problem with speaking or hearing history. It doesn't bother me. In reference to the truth of it. The actions involved in it, in reference to the murderous actions of Europeans, upset me. But the history of itself, the truth of it, doesn't get me uncomfortable. I'll be kind enough if you can share this broadcast. Somebody needs to hear it this morning. So Ramson sat there. Ramson sat there. Thank you, Pastor Lambert. Ramson sat there and inadvertently belittled an entire ethnicity in this country, suggesting that there needs to be more examples of successful black people in Guyana. Look at the condition under which he said it, that he was referring to and seeking to defend a contract being awarded to two gentlemen to a company called Statement Construction, and that company is totally disqualified from receiving any such contract. And Ramson is defending the indefensible and then having ethnicity tied to the defense. Because some of you also don't understand what the problem is yet. Some of you Africans, some of you Indians, some of you Guyanese do not understand what the issue is with the situation yet with Ramson. So on the heels of that, Mr. Ramson was met with the likes of me. Because I would never sit back and tell you before this. Under no circumstance will I sit and allow Guyanese, it's not about ethnicity here now, to be disrespected by anybody. No one. Which is why I took umbrage, and still do, to when what they call him, critic, sat and belittled Africans, Indians, those of descent of African, Indians and Portuguese and so on. And then the Ethnic Relations Commission just had him sit there like a moron, and he mocked them when he was finished. Because my rage didn't come about just Africans being, he said, oh, Africans can't read, or black people can't read. He also said that East Indian people drink cow urine, cow pee. If you disrespect Guyanese of any ethnic group to that extent, I will deal with you publicly in reference to my feelings about the matter. Because that is the proper thing to do. That is the responsible thing to do. We're going to talk about the slaves who defend Ramson. So Ramson said what he said. Others responded to it, including me. And out of the caves, out of the crevices and out of the rocks and on the rocks, from on the rocks and ledges came defenders, as is expected. Series was brought to the studio. Series came before Ramson. Joseph Hamilton, the Minister of Labor, who knows better, went to the studio, and all he could have said in essence was that, why would people have an issue if Ramson speaks on behalf of Africans or black people? Ramson never spoke on behalf of anybody. Or Ramson is qualified. Why would you have an issue with Ramson speaking about your history? Ramson has a right to say what he's saying. That's Joseph Hamilton, an African. An African who said that nobody will be forced to take a vaccine because they're not vaccinated in the first place. An African who suggested the law, or stated plainly what the law stated, that you are not supposed to force anybody to take anything, and that when it comes to surveillance, which is to test and to determine the status of your employees, no employer must ever have an employee pay, according to Article 109, I think, or 99 of the Operational Health and Safety Act. You're not supposed to make anybody pay for any test. Then he backpedaled and said that, oh, when the law was made, nobody thought about coronavirus. That's how stupid these people are. Look at the kind of explanation he's giving. After he cited the law, he then said that when the law was fashioned or framed, nobody thought about coronavirus. Nobody thought the PCR test would be so expensive. So because they didn't think about it, you could break the law. That's the kind of idiots that go to defend Ramson. So Joseph Hamilton couldn't speak any differently, because his defense of the indefensible, his defense of the government, the administration breaking the law, is that when the law was framed in Guyana, that no employer can make an employee pay for any test that the employer wants to find out if the employee wants the status of the employee. He said nobody was thinking of coronavirus then. So because the PCR test is so expensive now, it's okay to have that law forgotten, though it is still lawful in the books. So you can't expect better from Hamilton. Charles Ramson, Barrett Jagyo, Irfan Ali, Anil Nandlal, and all of y'all, you are free to speak about African history, but you could never represent me as an African. I tell you before, and I'll say it to your faces every time I see you, whenever the opportunity presents itself. You are not qualified. You are unqualified when it comes to speaking on behalf of Africans. Now you need to know the difference here. You can speak about Africans, but you're not qualified to speak on behalf of me as an African. That's what I said. I never said Charles Ramson cannot talk about Africans. This guy needs to talk about anybody he wants. But he cannot represent me as an African. You're not going to be making racist statements filled with racist undertones and be in a political party that is known to be racist and against Africans and you could speak on my behalf? No. Then there's one named BL. I don't know, he's calling Aaron in his name, but we call him BL in Linden. And BL and I are familiar with each other. I played football. The US people call it soccer. BL would report on certain matches that were played. He would be around. We watch football together and so on. So calling Aaron knows me, but we call him BL, short man. BL is an African. Though short, he's still an African. And BL was on the news wearing a red shirt with Charles Ramson's image on it. Look at what the handlers would allow in this country. And BL, not Kashif, not Shanghai, BL. And if you know BL, you know that BL is the most appropriate candidate for such a position. If you know the history of Kashif and Shanghai and BL, you know that BL fits the bill. So short Aaron put this t-shirt on, red t-shirt with an image of Ramson imprinted in the front. And he approached those who were protesting, and he approached the media to speak, to say that he sees nothing wrong with what Ramson said. Now this is the only part I would agree with BL about. So APNU AFCites, PNCites, buckle up. Because BL has a very valid point. BL is from Linden. And BL referenced a matter, or referred to a matter, in which one of the alleys from which, listen to me, Aubrey Norton, Charles Corbin, and some other one of them originated. These men are from Linden. Norton came here to launch his campaign because he wanted to come into the grassroots and all kinds of foolishness. Norton is from Linden. Corbin is from Linden. These men, when they had the opportunity to vehemently fight to ensure that Lindeners in that alley in Wismar and across Linden, I told you before, receive what is rightfully theirs, they did nothing. Or somebody stopped them from getting what they wanted. I agree with BL in that. Because there's no way that you can have so many years in a political office and in administrative power, and you cannot simply fix an alley. So BL said, based on what he's seeing, the PPP Civic is doing far more. So he was always with up there, or PNC. His father was among the first from Linden to ever sat in to be a member of parliament. So, so Aaron decided he's going to cross the floor and he go across the PPP. Fine, no problem. However, the fact that Aaron had to deliberately walk out there wearing his Charles Ramson t-shirt, red, to do everything in his power for the world to see that he represents Ramson, is a red flag. And if I'm mistaken, BL, you are a referee, so you know what I mean by red flag. Red flag, you're a referee. Red card. Because you said that you have a family to feed. Do you understand what you said and how you destroyed Ramson and yourself? Imagine, Mr. BL, that you would go out there, Colin, in the city, not Linden, wearing a Charles Ramson t-shirt to tell the world that you have a family to feed. Hence, you're defending Ramson. And you go to the PP Civic. Do you understand how belittling that is of you as a man? That you are prepared to defend what is wrong because you have a family to feed? Not because the principle that what Ramson did is right. Then there's another one from Buxton, I think it is, who showed up again to talk about the benefits that, oh, they're fixing our field and the field was bad and they're fixing the playground. So in every instant, and I'm saying this before I go to your history, in every instant, these Africans are defending what they gain. BL said Charles Ramson is a role model to him. How? He can't say that to this day. What principle did Ramson teach you, Mr. Aaron? What? Apart from what you did, which is to defend that which is wrong. What principle has Ramson ever taught you as a man? You're a grown man. And Ramson, a little boy, is your role model? A boy who has no control over what he says? Who can't keep his mouth shut for 20 seconds to say something sensible? Who can't keep his hand off a phone? He has to go typing or a device to type something that is always, more often than not, destructive to himself and his party? That's your role model? So let me take you to history then. The Africans have to defend those little ones. Those, only 2 or 3 of them came out to Ramson's defense. But they had to do it. When they went to Africa, the Europeans, they captured Africans. And somebody came on my broadcast last week, and they had the nerve to say that Africans weren't dragged from Africa. They were sold into slavery. The person, I don't know if it's a true African, because some fake accounts exist. But let's say the person's an African. And I want a descendant of an African. I want you to understand how stupid some of these people are when they try to defend stupidity. He said that the African slaves, the Africans, were not dragged here into slavery. They were sold into slavery. Now hold on. So the suggestion from this moron is that if somebody is sold into slavery, then they came willingly. I can't believe that Guyana produced the likes of these people, honestly. It's impossible for me to believe that Guyana produced the likes of some of these people who come on my page. It's impossible for me to accept that you came from this country. So because the Africans were sold into slavery, they weren't dragged here? My 5-year-old son has more sense than you. If that is how he chose to reason. When the Africans, they weren't slaves, they became slaves. When the Africans were captured, the Europeans, including the church, did not see them as being worthy of being called human beings. They were property. And because these Africans came forward to defend Charles Ramson, this aspect of this broadcast is entirely directed to you. While Africans observed their fellow Africans being captured and taken onto these ships, taken into dungeons in Ghana, and they were then walked through the door with a call of no return because they never saw them back. They became aware that there was some economic benefit involved in capturing and selling Africans. Now pay attention, Ramson. Pay attention, you 3 who came to defend Ramson's foolishness. You Africans, and you choose to come to defend Ramson's statement about black role models. Let me talk to you. BL. The fact that Africans observed that there was money involved here. Remember BL said he has to feed his family? Right. Africans observed that there was an economic benefit to be had in selling other Africans. Do you know what some of them did? Some of them decided that this slave trade business makes sense. So they began to sell their fellow Africans to Europeans. So it began with the Europeans capturing Africans, and then it became easier for the Europeans, for the white man, because Africans began to capture fellow Africans and sell them for profit. I told you history is on repeat today. In our country, do you not see that? That there's some in the PPP Civic administration, some lackeys who are not even in the administration, just servants of the administration. Imagine that you could see, I have a family to feed, I got money to make. You do not care how it affects your fellow Africans. It doesn't matter to you. All that matters to you is that you have money to make. So in making your money, even though you witness the marginalization, you witness the discrimination, you witness the fact that an entire staff complement, all of St. John's Anglican Brigade, were fired instantly. And 27 plus people were off a job in a depressed community like Linden. You said nothing about it, BL. You didn't come with a t-shirt then, you know. You didn't show up with a t-shirt when the PPP Civic Administration fired 27 ambulance brigade staff. Where were you then? Oh, they don't have family to feed, huh? They don't have family to feed, Mr. BL. I can't blame you. I wouldn't waste my time blaming you. I would not waste 1 minute of my time blaming you. I'll spend my time speaking to you and about you so others can learn from you of what I say about you. When predominantly Africans in Linden were fired, terminated, when you calculate it, I think it's about $54 million annually they've had in salaries. Gone. What did you say? Nothing. What did one from Buxton say? Nothing. Oh, but you could come out now to defend Charles Ramson because you have an economic benefit. When they locked nurses out of Linden, BL, and that child was taken into hospital, unconscious, and Frank Anthony had no issue with a child being unconscious and locked out of a hospital, and the parents have to be told, you can't come inside. And I said, you never have this child in here, the mother can't go to see him. What did you say, BL? I didn't see you there. I didn't see you with a t-shirt. But the record of history shows that the slaves discovered, or the Africans discovered, that slavery was an opportunity to gain to the expense or at the expense of fellow Africans. They grabbed the opportunity to gain money to the detriment of the fellow Africans. They were willing to engage, some of them left farming, left agricultural industries, to go into the business of capturing Africans, betraying their fellow Africans, selling them. The one historical fact of northern Ghana, I think it records that a king whose brother did wrong, in order to banish his brother, a king, royalty, I told you some of us came from royalty, his brother's royalty, he said, instead of imprisoning you, I'll send you into slavery with these white people, these Caucasians, not just you but your wife. So a family who was royalty, of royal lines and lineage, was put into the dungeons and sent into the New World. Africans did that. A brother did it to his own brother. Make sense, BL? Are you getting the picture yet? Are you understanding here the similarity between you and these people? Because of the economic benefit, he sold his brother. He's already a king. He didn't need any money. So he sold out his own brother and his sister-in-law, subjecting them to death. History is on repeat. There were very few Africans who did that to their fellow Africans. And there are very few Africans in Guyana who are doing it to their fellow Africans. But you're still doing it nonetheless. Because your focus is on the economic prospects, not on the principles by which you should live. Those Africans who sold other Africans saw no issue because they had economic benefits. In their mind, they were not the ones who were being enslaved. They're not the ones being sold. So what's the problem? This is what we're living in our country. You do not see an issue with anything because you've got a little family to feed. And you've got some benefits and Ramson is fixing your ground. First of all, you in Buxton, Ramson is not fixing your ground. Your grounds are being repaired by you, the taxpayers. What Ramson is doing, he has administrative responsibility. Hence, he is having oversight. He's having oversight of the handling of the government's money. That's all he's doing, of your money. He's not fixing any ground for you. Ramson didn't go to any bank to withdraw money to give to you all. But you are celebrating the fact that your taxpayers' dollars are being used. Ramson says something on the broadcast that I'll speak to in a separate notion, but on a separate occasion. But I need you to hear this. Ramson, I think it's Felice Robinson was talking to him, and he said that imagine we haven't touched $1 of the oil money yet. Ramson has sunken the boat of the PPP Civic Administration. I told you all that boy talks without sense. He doesn't think before he speaks. It's obvious. He is not cautious about what he says. And many times it speaks to the detriment of the PPP Civic. When Ramson said that imagine we haven't touched $1 of the oil money yet, and we did so many things, Ramson didn't know what he did. Because the same PPP said that Granger emptied the treasury. So how can you not touch the oil money but find billions of dollars for cash grant, because we care, farmers cash grant, building all these mega structures in reference to contracts? How you find it, Charles? If Granger emptied the treasury, how you could say you didn't touch $1 from the oil money, but you're spending billions of Guyana dollars? Where are you getting it from? Where? Tell us. Tell us, boy. You tell us where the money's coming from. Because if you said that Granger emptied the treasury, there's no way that the treasury can be restored to this extent within a year. No way. So where you got the money from? Do tell. This boy is going to sink your boat. The longer Jagdeo keeps him there, the worse it shall be for you all. Because if you don't know, 90% of the government's revenue comes from taxation. You don't have any investment. Only 10% comes from investment. The Guyana government repeatedly, so including PNC and all y'all, you tax people. It started with Asgarali. You tax this country into poverty. 90% of your revenue in Guyana comes on the back of Guyanese in what is called taxes. So you from Buxton, Ramson isn't fixing your ground with money from his pocket. He's fixing money from your ground with money that you pay in taxes. And he's not fixing it either. But the Africans in history saw the need to sell fellow Africans because it was profitable to them, though deadly to those who were sold. When you are an African, because this is about talking to y'all, Don't be uncomfortable if you're Indian. This will help you. Because what you need to understand in Guyana is that history doesn't make us enemies. History makes us informed. You need to have information. Because if I am informed about my history, and if you are informed about your history, then we should have greater respect for each other. The Africans were not bought or captured by the Indians and sold into slavery. The Africans did it to themselves after they saw that money was being made from this. So the Europeans would capture them, and as it became more difficult to access them, the fellow Africans did it. The indentured servants didn't sell anybody into slavery. Don't get uncomfortable now. Stay in the class. Stay right here. It is the likes of BL and these men. They're the ones who are causing a serious issue in this country because they are finding the time to seek for economic gain, as he said he has a family to feed, to justify that which is totally unacceptable. So slaves didn't want to have this slave trade finish, slave traders, including Africans. But although the Africans were gaining, and permit me to talk to you now, BL, and you from Buxton and all y'all, although the Africans were gaining, they never became as wealthy as the slave traders of European descent. They never became as wealthy as the Queen Isabella of Spain, King Ferdinand, Queen Victoria, and these people. Never. Get the point yet? So the Africans who would catch slaves and catch people out of Africans and sell them into slavery got some money, yes, but they never got the wealth of those who they sold the slaves to. BL, you didn't get the message yet. I know you haven't got the message yet, so I'll say it to you again and explain it to you, because you need this kind of slow teaching. The Africans who sold the fellow Africans into slavery got money that they were excited about, but they were never as wealthy as those who bought the slaves from them. The PPP civic administration is never, there's none of you, I dare one of y'all who defend this foolishness to tell me whether you have quarter the money as Ramson has in a salary paid to you. Tell me, BL, do you have $800 and something thousand per month being paid to you in a bank account? No! That is Ramson's salary, by the way. Remember when Granger doubled the minister's salary, 50% increase in minister's salary? Ramson didn't reject that. They talked about it, but he's still enjoying it. The PPP Civic didn't reverse the decision to give members of parliament, 50 of parliamentary people, 50% increase. They're still enjoying it. Why? Oh, Granger was evil. Vote Granger out. He took 50% and gave you all nothing. But you still enjoying the 50% increase, though. So I dare you, BL, Colin Aaron, to tell me when you ever had $800 and something thousand put into your account tax-free. You're defending Ramson that you have a family to feed? None of you Africans who defend this nonsense consider that you were given. You in Buxton, I don't know the young man's name, but you in Buxton, can you tell me whether you have a monthly salary of 800 plus thousand Guyana dollars like Ramson does? Or 700 whatever thousand, between 700 $800,000 per month. Plus, you drive in our vehicle that we bought. They didn't buy any vehicle. We, the taxpayers, buy the vehicles. Do you drive in a Land Cruiser that the government, that the taxpayers buy for you to drive in? No, you don't. You have to pay for gasoline to drive if you have a car. We pay for Ramson's gasoline because that's the politics of all in Guyana. So you have no benefit whatsoever. None. You have nothing to be compared with those who handle you. But because you get a little bald feel, because they made you feel important, because they made you master of a few slaves, you think that you're so special. You see, unlike other talk show hosts, another talk show host. So I don't come here to talk to you all just for show and to get viewers and talk shows and nonsense. No. This is a responsible act of mine to inform even you, hoping that you would learn. I told you, I don't engage in the comedy nonsense and it's just hype and everybody just wants to see what I have to say. Now they're so stupid and outrageous. I don't have time for that nonsense. You're going to learn, even if it's the hard way. You're going to learn nonetheless. You are reliving your history and don't even know it. So all of you who seek to try, those few of you, to rush like BL had to do. Colin Aaron had to go out there. He went out there with a t-shirt. You're a grown man. You have a family to feed, which means that probably you have a wife. And your wife, I hope that she didn't see you. You're a grown man. You have to put a little boy Charles Ramson t-shirt on and go to defend him. And your best line of defense was that you have a family to feed. But you can't help yourself because you have a family to feed. The Africans who sold their fellow Africans into slavery had families to feed, remember? But they were never allowed to gain the wealth of the Europeans. What is even more tragic is that as time progressed, the Europeans found a way to go right back into Africa via what was called the United Nations and give them aid, grants, loans. And history proved that they are now subjects all over again. And they are still this time willing, in terms of presidents and rulers, to sell their brothers and sisters. Because the presidents, for example, in Guinea, and his son, they're billionaires. Though Guinea, Equatorial Guinea, is recorded as the poorest nation, the poorest of all nations. The president is a billionaire, his son. So I want you all to take note of the undeniable truth that up until today, history is repeating itself, where Africans are given a position of authority, and once they get the position of authority, they sell their own people so they can maintain benefits. Is that the history that you respect, BL? We know you as BL in London. Is that the history that you want to be known as one of those who looked at the plight of his people, and because he had a selfish gain, he said, okay, I'll go and defend those who are oppressing my people. That I will never get what they have. I'll never be who they are. I'll never be allowed to enter their circle of economics. I will still label myself as being one who fed my family on the backs of my brothers and sisters. Is that what you want? You see, I don't have an issue with a man seeking to engage in the upkeep of his family. You should, lest you be considered worse an infidel. I have an issue when you do so, knowing that your actions or the actions of those who feed you are destructive to your wider family. Why didn't Kashif go outside BL? Why didn't Kashif go with a t-shirt on, with Ramson's photograph in it? Why? Why didn't Shanghai go with Ramson's t-shirt on and pledge allegiance to Ramson? Why didn't they do that? Why you? Have you all taken note of the caliber, of the quality of Africans who go to defend this nonsense? Have you taken note of it? Who is Joe Hamilton? Whenever they want to banish you, generally, they give you certain positions in government. So you tell me, who is Joseph Hamilton in reference to importance? How often does he speak? How significant is his voice in the PP civic administration? How? What makes Joseph Hamilton of any worth that people pay attention to him? Have you taken note of the societal value of these men who seek to defend this creature? And again, you need to understand, and that's what makes Guyanese uncomfortable with the truth. People across the world generally, you hate things that are in your face when it comes to truth. You like things, you like a lie that's nice and soft and tastes pretty sweet. You hate the cold, blunt truth. Some of you wish if you could kill me. Some of you may be now thinking, who can we pay? How can we have somebody to go and hit this man? And of course, you'd have to choose a little African boy and promise him a car, a Premio or an Allion, not even a Lexus. Or you may promise him $1 million so he can buy an XR or two, and he would be willing to come and shoot somebody who teaches him because he has a family to feed. That's the kind of culture you want to create in this country. So because the Africans did the same thing. They were prepared to sell their brothers. So y'all don't point your finger at Indian people and say, oh, these Indian people are bad to us. Don't do that. You need to remember that actively involved were Africans in selling Africans. Indentured servants never sold you. We're talking history. That's why I said let's speak history. Indentured servants never sold Africans. They were not involved in the slave trade. But a part of the slave trade included Africans selling Africans. Indentured servants historically, going back into history, never had anything to do with selling Africans. But Africans observed the potential and the possibility of making money. And they chose to sell their fellow Africans. So if we want to go back, that's what I said to you all last week, don't become upset. Let's deal with the truth. If we want to revisit history, which we should do, the historical evidence has no charge to be laid against Indian people because they never sold you into anything. It was your own people who did it to you. Now chew on that for a second. Swallow that for 1 minute and see how it tastes. Tell me how it tastes. Because you're seeing it again before your eyes today. That it is easy, even in the Guyana police force, in the military, it is easy for Africans to do things to their own Africans for a salary. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine because you paid a salary, you could be unjust to your fellow man? No, you're going to be uncomfortable today. Because you want to have a stripe on your shoulder or some little pin. A pin that makes you worthy of receiving a little more money every month. You are prepared to go after your own people. Once you have instruction to do so. And that's a fact. That is why I would never be against the Guyana Police Force. I'll seek to educate members of the Guyana Police Force and to provoke members of the Guyana Police Force into thinking differently. The military, same thing, because I understand your plight. It's unfortunate, but I understand it. And we can change it if we all think the same way. I never fight y'all. You come arrest me and I won't fight you. Fight you for what? No, I'll teach you while you arrest me. I wouldn't fight you. Because what you are doing now is what was done historically. When the governors general were sent across nations of the world, they were European. But they didn't have to have a European police force. Think this morning. Put on your Farmer Brown hat and think. Learn. They didn't need a European police. When the governor general came here, he didn't need to have a European police force. All he did was act in the name of the Queen. And Africans were prepared to arrest their fellow Africans, to enforce laws against their own people because they had a uniform on. They did not have a Caucasian police force in Guyana. They didn't need one. Because the culture is simple. Remember, slavery has a record here. As long as a house slave was in master's house, he felt more important than a field slave. He was given master's clothing. And when he wore the hand-me-downs from master, he felt special because he wasn't dressed like a field slave. When master would eat and give him leftovers, he felt important because master gave me something to eat. But when master gave you what master didn't want, and the governors general understood that it's simple. As long as I come to African people, as long as I come to indentured servants, as long as I come to people who are less than me in reference to my mind, and I convince them that they're less than me, I have control over them. And that's why we have to, as Guyanese across the board, Indians, Africans, Chinese, Portuguese, you have to, Amerindians, you have to understand that if ever you have the power to unite mentally with your brother and sister in this country, no one can play this game with us. But you all like it because some of you benefit from it. Just a few of you benefit from it, so you're prepared to defend it. And then the propaganda machines like the media would push out your statements because they like it, since they benefit from advertisements. Some of these media houses get $300,000, $400,000, $1 million a year or more in advertising from the handlers. So, okay, good, great. Let me advertise with the handlers on, because if I speak the truth here, I will not get advertising money. And I need money to function because the license to run a TV station, radio station, $3.5 million per month. Okay, so come on now. Let's sell our own people out by misinforming them or withholding information from them. That's what the media houses are doing to you in Guyana. They refuse to engage you in a truthful manner because at the end of the day, they will suffer if they tell the truth. They don't want the people to pull the advertisement from you all. History guides decisions, either for your good or your bad, either to your benefit or your detriment. History guides decisions. Know that and remember that. All Guyanese, I'm not talking ethnicity, all Guyanese of sense, with sense, must observe the power we have if we unite mentally. Stop looking at who has and who doesn't have, and look at who we are and what's being done to us. When the Queen of England sent the Governor General to Guyana, she didn't send him with an African. She didn't send him with an indentured servant. She sent him knowing that as long as he comes and he is convinced, or the people are convinced, that the Queen has power to do things, that's it. My great-grandfather, I will always tell you all this, he had hundreds of acres, thousands of acres of land, where the Atkinson Air Force was to Mary Air Force, right? Airport is, the Chetty Jagan International, you know what we call it? All my grandfather was told, my great-grandfather was told, is that the Queen has need of this land. Oh my God, in honor of the Queen, he gave his land up. Actually, he was a businessman, so he said he'd lease it. And they promised him they will lease it for 99 years. They never paid $1 to my great-grandfather. They haven't even paid $1 to me. Because that's how the people function. Persons who are prepared to relinquish their land, relinquish their rights, because at the end of the day, it pleased the Queen. The same one who murdered your people. You felt important to be honored. Oh my God, I'm called sir? I've been knighted by a queen, I must be special. You special? These people have murdered your ancestors. What makes you special if they tap you on the right shoulder? Kneel. Nigel. Arise, Sir Nigel. Oh my God, I'm important. I'm called Sir. I've been knighted by the queen. Get out of my face. What makes you think that a murderous tribe is worthy of honoring you? That's why you would fight your own people, because you still want to be in Master's good books. That's why BL could put on a jersey to show Ramson's picture, because BL doesn't want to lose the opportunity to feed his family. Up until this day, nobody in this government or previous administrations have once defended the fact that my family, where Temeri Airport is, it was owned by my great-grandfather. And they took it and never paid $1 into our family. But I must now pay airport tax. That makes sense to you all? It makes sense to you that I should now go to pay a tax to this government to board a plane on the soil that the Queen stole from my grandfather? That makes sense to you? It makes sense to Granger. It made sense to all them. All y'all. It made sense to all of these morons who believe that when they do things that would make the masses pleased with them, then they have a good name internationally. They're given some good title internationally. They're given some nice position internationally. And so I'm like, oh, I'm important. The time has come for us to understand the potency of history and the possibilities of functioning with knowledge. You see, once we know, we're able to operate better, hopefully. Because I would give some of you all a pass because you're ignorant. But hopefully some of you will have a better understanding of why I am the way I am, because I have history. I understand my history, so I don't bow to people. And that's why you recognize that I don't have an issue with it. Whether you say I'm mean, I'm nice, I'm ugly, I'm stupid, it doesn't matter to me. Because I understand who I am. And I only relate well to those who understand who they are. So I would like to think, because I know BL, I know Colin Aaron, he's not as informed as you think he is. So he needs a lesson of this nature to help him. Kashif and Shanghai likewise, they need lessons of this nature to make them understand what I'm saying. You don't need to associate with people who oppress people to become wealthy. Wealth has been given to you by history. You have a wealth of history. You have a wealth of wisdom in your ancestors. Do not be opportunistic. Be realistic. Understand the danger of selling your own people out for your personal, limited economic gain. I shall never sell my people, Guyanese in general, short, never. I don't care who you are. I will never sell the rights of my Guyanese people to make money. I hope that this lesson helped you this morning as I'm about to begin my day. I hope that you're strengthened and that you're wiser. I look forward to speaking to you again in the not too distant future, because this is necessary. This is mandatory. BL, I call your name many times in this broadcast. I call your pseudonym because you need to know better. Enjoy your day. Shalom. Please share the broadcast. If you don't mind, share the broadcast. Let people understand what we're dealing with. And let them learn if they can. Bye.